After the massive success of Godzilla, Toho wanted to bring back Godzilla for a sequel as quickly as possible. Tomoyuki Tanaka tried to recruit Ishido Honda back to direct the sequel. However, Honda was already hard at work on the 1995 drama Love Tide. Therefore, Tanaka had to find someone else to direct. Tanaka then decided to recruit Motoyoshi Oda as the director. Oda had previously worked with Honda as a second unit director on 1953's Eagle of the Pacific, so Motoyoshi Oda was the best choice Tanaka had. But instead of making another anti-nuclear cautionary tale, Oda wanted the film to be more of a monster versus monster story, and history then was made. And as this monster versus monster format is what carried the Godzilla brand into the future. This is Godzilla Raids Again. Soichi Tsukioka, played by Hiroshi Koizumi, a pilot for Kaio Fishing Incorporated, finds Kobe Kobayashi, played by Minoru Chaki, a pilot stuck on Iwato Island due to problems with his plane's engine. They both see Godzilla and another monster named Anguirus duke it out until both monsters tumble into the sea. As both of the pilots luckily escape, Takashi Shimura returns as Dr. Yamane from the first Godzilla movie. Dr. Yamane brings back footage from the first Godzilla attack on Tokyo and explains that the Oxygen Destroyer killed Godzilla, but its creator Dr. Serizawa sacrificed himself to kill Godzilla. But since Dr. Serizawa is dead, there is no effective countermeasure against Godzilla. Dr. Yamane says that using flares against Godzilla may lure him away from the city, and suggesting a blackout as well. The JSTF does so as Godzilla enters Osaka Bay. A group of prisoners in a truck escape, but then crash into explosives, and luring Godzilla back to Osaka. But the flares that lured Godzilla out lured Anguirus in. The two monsters then clash in the city when Godzilla lands a fatal neckbite on Anguirus. Godzilla then burns his corpse and returns to the sea. Hideki Yamaji, played by Yukio Kasama, the boss of Kaio Fishing Incorporated, and father of Hidemi Yamaji, played by Sasuko Wakayama, Soichi Tsuyoko's girlfriend. Yamaji moves the company's operation to the Hokkaido region of Japan and sends Kobayashi to work as a trawler captain. A Herc party is held, but news that Godzilla sunk another ship interrupts the party. As Soichi works with the JSTF and then locates Godzilla on Kamiko Island, Kobayashi tries to distract Godzilla from escaping, but he gets hit by Godzilla's atomic breath and his plane crashes into the side of a snowy mountain. This creates an avalanche, and this act inspires the JSTF to bury Godzilla in a massive avalanche. With repeated missile strikes on the mountains, Godzilla then gets buried in ice, and the words appear, "The end," closing the film. Godzilla Raids Again, directed by Motoyoshi Oda, is an example of a sequel that's far weaker than its predecessor. But this doesn't mean it's a downright horrible movie, and I can't exactly hate it either, as the choice of Godzilla fighting another monster is a genius decision. As if Godzilla just came to Osaka and simply just destroyed the city, the franchise would have just shot itself in the head. And the film introduced a beloved kaiju in the community, Anguirus. Anguirus is an irradiated ankylosaur, and that has been a rival with the Godzilla specimen for years. And this is interesting world building too. Also, the return of Dr. Yamane is a decision that I find to be really smart, as this grounds Raids Again story as a direct sequel to Godzilla. Though he wasn't an extremely major role in the movie, he wasn't pointless, as he did suggest the idea of luring Godzilla away with flares and a blackout in the process. It's a decision that I think makes the film more interesting. Aside from returning characters, the director Motoyoshi Oda made a pretty drastic change from Ishido Honda's predecessor. Instead of choosing the theme of nuclear devastation, Oda never chose a theme even remotely similar to that. He followed his own path. That was a monster versus monster story, and after the battle in Osaka, it became more of a monster on the loose, which makes more sense. But Oda's decision of Godzilla fighting another monster not only planted a seed for Godzilla's future, but the entirety of kaiju media to come, which is pretty cool. What's also cool is the special effects. Eiji Tsuburaya returned as the special effects director and used his skills to bring the battle between Godzilla and Anguirus to life. And there are some shots that impress me even to this date. There's one shot where Godzilla first fires off his atomic breath at Anguirus in Osaka, and we see everything crumble and burn around him. And I just love that shot. Akira Watanabe designed Godzilla's new suit and for Anguirus's. Watanabe purposely made the suit slimmer so that it was easier to move around in and they could fight. I mean, the suits were still a pain to wear, but at least they were less dreadful. Haru Nakajima portrayed Godzilla once again, while Katsumi Tezuka portrayed Anguirus. In my last retrospective, I mentioned that Katsumi Tezuka played Godzilla in some of the shots in Godzilla 1954. A kind of scary story is that in the scene where Godzilla killed Anguirus, obviously, Tezuka had to act like Anguirus was dead. But when he plummeted in the water, Tezuka had a hard time getting up and out of the suit and nearly drowned. Tezuka ended up being fine, but this is honestly a super scary moment for a suit actor to go through. Trust me, we'll get to Kenpachi Satsuma, but we'll get there when we get there. Also, people complain that Godzilla and Anguirus were fighting too fast. Well, that's because one of the cameramen accidentally slowed down the frame rate while shooting several scenes intended to be slow motion. So the editors had to make the scenes far faster and therefore resulting in the Osaka battle to be very fast-paced. But I like this because it makes the monster fights look so aggressive and it looks like real animals fighting. Another major figure that was not in the production field was Akira Ifukube. Ifukube was not able to return because of several scheduling conflicts. So because of the rush production of Raids Again, the team chose Masaru Sato to compose the film's score. And that's why Raids Again's score sounds way different than 1954's. Some of Sato's tracks give the film's moments a very eerie sense and very unnatural. Like, for example, tracks like Godzilla in Osaka Bay and Godzilla Located. These two tracks almost sound the same, but there are key differences that make the tracks a horror feeling in a sense. Alright, now let's go into the American re-edits. The US release of Godzilla Raids Again was retitled to Gigantus the Fire Monster. This was done because in the last Godzilla movie, Godzilla was killed by the Oxygen Destroyer. So having a different species member named Gigantus is kind of smart on paper. But this renaming didn't exactly work as planned because it was really evident that this was just Godzilla just being called another name. But Gigantus the Fire Monster was actually not the original planned re-edit, as American producers quickly grabbed the rights to put Godzilla Raids Again in American theaters. This film, instead of just being called Godzilla Raids Again or something similar, the producer decided to call the film The Volcano Monsters. This version intended to excise all the dramatic Japanese human scenes and use the monster footage in an entirely new American cast. This plan failed as the American company went bankrupt. I also want to add, when the production was held for the Volcano Monsters, they requested that Toho would give them the Godzilla suit and Anguirus suit for additional filming. But once again, due to the company's bankruptcy, the original suits are now lost at sea. Because of these huge obstacles, the remaining producers decided to dub the film and make some minor adjustments here and there. But in conclusion, Godzilla Raids Again is an underwhelming follow-up to its predecessor, with not expanding on its themes, and a downgrade in the acting. But Godzilla Raids Again is important because it just planted a seed that will continue even to this day. Godzilla fighting another monster. And that was Godzilla Raids Again.